This exact method for learning the guitar has been tested with over 1,000 of my students over the past 13 years I've been teaching, and because of that, I can look you in the eyes right now and tell you that this definitely works. Today's video is designed for brand new guitar players or those who feel like they missed out on one of the basics and can't get ahead. In today's free starter course, you're going to learn the basic vocab so you can talk to other guitar players, how to play your first chord and in what order to learn the next 8 so you can start confidently playing songs, 3 different ways to read music so that you can pick the one that works best for you, how to learn your first 5 songs, and when the time is right, how to get new gear and not get ripped off. Something that must not be overlooked when learning the guitar is simply, what's everything called? If you know this already, you can skip with the timestamps, but if you'll indulge me, this part is the body, and this is the neck. On the neck, we have these metal lines called frets. And on the neck, we have these spaces, which are also called frets. The way a guitar works is these strings are held up by the saddle, which is this white piece down here on the bridge, and the nut, which is this white piece up here that's near the head of the guitar. When you press a finger down in one of the frets, the string gets pressed down against the piece of metal, which acts like the new nut for that string. Since the string is now shorter, you get a higher note. If you have an acoustic guitar like this one, there's a sound hole where sound bounces around inside before going out to the listener. And if you have an electric guitar, you'll have these little blocks underneath the strings, which are actually magnets wrapped in copper wire. These magnets capture the vibrations of the string and send the sound out through the amp when plugged in. Now welcome to Troy's Art School, where thank God I'm a better guitar teacher than I am at drawing. These are the tuning pegs. This is the side that's closest to your face. This first string is E. If you have your guitar handy, try playing that string and saying E as you do. E. It may feel silly, but it'll help you memorize the string names. This next string is A. Try playing that one and saying A. This next one is D, and yes, there is a pattern to the colors that I'm using. E, A, and D are the 3 lowest tuned strings on your guitar. We call them the bass strings or the lower strings. The next string is G. Try saying E, A, D, G as you play E, A, D, and G. The next string is B. And this last one is also called E. On the guitar, we have 2 E strings, which are unfortunately the lowest and the highest strings. To remember the order of the string names, you can remember from low to high, elephants and donkeys grow big ears. Or if you want to use what one of my younger students told me years ago, I think he was maybe 8, he threw up his hand all proud and he said, "I heard that it was Eddie ate dynamite. Goodbye, Eddie." To which I said, look, as long as there's no one named Eddie in the class, if it helps you remember the string names, be my guest. And I stand by that. Now, if this were a live class, I would tell you to start a 2-minute timer, and I would tell you that you have 2 minutes to memorize the string names in whatever means necessary. Writing it down repeatedly, saying the string names over and over, whatever works for you. But since this is a YouTube video, you're gonna make me a pinky promise that you'll do this, okay? And if you're enjoying my teaching style so far and want to be met exactly where you're at as a student by a teacher who can teach you any of your favorite songs without judgment and making sure that you have fun learning even when it's challenging, sign up for a trial lesson with me by heading to troysurson.com/sign-up or clicking the same link in the description of this video. Guitar is a chord-based instrument. This means it's one of the only instruments that's able to play chords. It'd be a disservice to you as a guitar player and to all of your friends you're going to play music with if you couldn't play chords. So let's get started. I promise it's not that bad. Start by placing your 3rd finger on the 3rd fret on your high E string, the one that's closest to your feet. Then you're going to take your pick if you have one, or your thumb, and rest it on the D string, the 3rd one that's from your face. When you're ready, you're going to push your pick or your thumb through the bottom 4 strings playing a chord. If it made it on the last string, you've got to either push it down harder with that finger or move it closer to the right side of the fret if you're right-handed, and to the left side of the fret if you're left-handed. Congratulations, you just played a G chord. This box you're going to see up on the screen is called a chord chart. These are the pictures that are used all over the internet to tell you where to put your fingers when making a chord, which, speaking of, later in the video, I'll show you exactly where to look for songs depending on what your musical goals are. This chord chart going up next to G is E minor. Unlike G, you're going to play all 6 strings for this one, and you're going to hold down 2 strings, A and D, both in the 2nd fret. Once you've got that held down, take your pick or your thumb, and you're going to strum all 6 strings. Yeah, buddy. Wait, it made a sound, right? If not, check that you're pushing those 2 strings down hard enough, or that you're far enough over in the fret. Quick story time. When I learned how to play guitar, my dad told me, you only need 8 chords and then you can play every song. He showed me 9 chords, but that's not the point. I heard this as a 14-year-old and thought to myself, oh my God, that's so cool, and I can definitely figure it out. So he took an hour with me in the kitchen, taught me these chord shapes that I'm about to show you, and then said come back to him once I could play all of them perfectly, and it'd probably take me about a month. And I'll finish the story in a second here, but I want to show you the 9 chords. They are E, A, D, G, C, F, E minor, A minor, and D minor. And you already know 1.5 of these. What I mean by 1.5 is that G chord that I showed you at the beginning is an easy G chord. Because truth be told, some people find G, C, and F kind of hard. So I'm going to show you the regular versions here, and also the easy versions. This next section will be a close-up teaching of these chords. If you already know how to play all of these chords, including the full versions, and you don't have any problems with them, you can use the timestamps to skip ahead. For the E chord, place your first finger on the first fret on the G string, your second finger on the second fret on the A string, and your third finger on the second fret on the D string. So your second and third finger are going to be in the same spots that your first and second finger were for your E minor chord, but your first finger will be down with them on the G string on the first fret. The higher up on their fingertips they are, the easier it's going to be to get a clear sound out of these. Once you're holding down all three notes, you're going to take your thumb, your finger, or your pick, and you're going to play all 6 strings. For the A chord, this chord has 3 fingers all in the same fret. You're going to take your first finger and you're going to put it on your second fret on your D string, your second finger on the second fret on the G string, and your third finger on the second fret on the B string. It can feel a little bit squished. You might have to tilt your hand slightly out to your left if you're a right-handed guitar player, or out to your right if you're a left-handed guitar player. Once you've got all 3 fingers in the same fret, on their fingertips, ready to go, not touching the E string or the A string, you're going to grab your pick and you're going to go from your A string down. You might have noticed for the E chord we went from the E string down, and for the A chord we went from the A string down. For the D chord we're going to go from the D string down. I'll get you to take your first finger and you're going to go on the second fret on the G string. Your second finger on the second fret on the high E string, so notice how we skipped a string. And your third finger is going to come up right in between them onto the third fret on the B string. Once you've got all 3 of those down and they're high on their fingertips, you're going to play from the D string down, so you'll play your bottom 4 strings. For the G chord, you've already learned this. If you want the full version, I'll touch on that in a few minutes. For your C chord, the easy version looks like this. Place your first finger on the first fret on the B string, skip a string, place your second finger on the second fret on the D string. So nothing on your E string, nothing on your G string, first finger's on the first fret on B, second finger's on the second fret on D. Same thing, you're going to go from the D string down. For the F chord, the simple version looks like this, although most people still find it hard at first. Place your first finger on the first fret on the B string, same spot it was for your C chord. Your second finger is going to go on the second fret on the G string, so they'll be on strings right next to each other this time. Your third finger is going to skip a string and go up onto the A string on the third fret. And then your pinky is going to go down on the D string on the third fret. So you're going to use all 4 fingers for this chord. Make sure they're really tall on their fingertips. And you're not going to play your E strings. If you do play one of your E strings, not the end of the world, it's okay, but we're going to avoid our E strings. We're going to play your inside 4 strings and it'll sound like an A minor, which you already kind of know too. It's the same shape as your regular E chord, but you jump down a string and then play from your A string down. Then we have D minor. For D minor, you're going to put your first finger on the first fret on the high E string. Your second finger is going to go down on the G string on the second fret. And then it's up to you which one feels better. Some people like to put their third finger on the third fret on the B string. Personally, I like to put my pinky on the third fret on the B string. Try both, see what's more comfortable for you. And then you're going to play from your D string down, and it'll sound like... And just like that, you know your 9 basic chords. If you want the harder versions of G, C, and F, I'll go over them now, but if you want to stick with the basic ones and don't want to see what the hard ones look like, you can skip ahead with the timestamps. For the G chord, you're going to put your first finger on the second fret on the A string, your second finger on the third fret on the low E string, the one closest to your head, and then you have a choice here. Some people will just put their third finger down on the high E string, and that would be a complete G chord. Other people will put their third finger on the B string on the third fret and their pinky on the high E string on the third fret. And that's also a complete G chord. The reason for which one you would use, if you need to switch quickly to say a D chord, it would make sense to do the 4-finger chord because then you can anchor your hand with your third finger. Whereas if you were, say, switching to a C chord, you might choose to use fingers 2, 3, and 4 for that 3-finger chord, and then you can jump around. But don't worry too much about that yet. With your G chord, it's up to you which shape you use, the 4-finger one or the 3-finger one, whichever feels easier, but try both. Unlike the G chord, we only add 1 more note for our full C chord. I used to tell my adult classes at the rec centers that it's as easy as 1, 2, 3, which means it's pretty much impossible if you have arthritis in your hands. This got a couple of laughs, but for real, this chord can be tough for some people. One of my success stories was Allison. She was 77 when she started and actually had arthritis in her hands. Her C chord took the longest, but she managed to learn all 9 of the basic chords I'm talking about, a bunch of nursery rhymes, and songs from musicals, which is what she wanted. She wanted to be able to play music for her grandkids, and that's exactly what she got out of her guitar lessons. And the F chord makes most people want to say other things that start with F, and it looks like this. The easiest way to make an F chord is to make an E chord with fingers 2, 3, and 4. So we're going to put our second finger on the first fret on the G string, our third finger on the second fret on the A string, and our pinky on the second fret on the D string. So we should have our fingers there. And we've got an E chord. Now to get to F, what you're going to do is move all 3 of these notes up 1 fret, so you should be in fret 2 and fret 3 with the other 2 fingers. And then you're going to take a flat first finger and you're going to press down all 6 strings in the first fret. If you're having trouble getting this to sound, what you want to do is make sure that you're sitting up, level shoulders. You don't sink into your guitar. So level shoulders. Hold the guitar steady on this side, the picking hand side of your body, and then pull back with the bar. Kind of like you're playing pinball, that motion with your arm. So we've got our fingers down, bar across, pull back, and we should get this F chord sound. While I haven't met you yet, I'm thrilled that I get to be the one helping you learn guitar. Thanks for being here with me. If you could do me a favor, to show me that you're one of the folks still watching, could you drop a comment of a penguin? I love penguins, and I think it would be really fun to open up a video where in the comments it's just a bunch of penguins with no context. Okay, so I told you I'd teach you 3 ways to learn to read music on the guitar. The first you already learned, which is chord charts. And you crushed it. You just learned 9 chords. The next one that I'm going to talk about is called So Many Names, some slanderous ones, but trust me, it's not as bad if you know how to look at it. I had one student who's been struggling in his theory classes come to me, and in under 10 minutes, he was able to read what I'm about to show you, standard notation, also called sheet music. On the guitar, we read treble clef, so that's what we'll be talking about, but this hack also works on bass clef and all of the other clefs too, should you need them. Treble clef is sometimes called the G clef because it looks like a letter G. Just kidding. It's called that because the line that goes through the clef is G. Though, kind of looks like a G, don't you think? That G is the same note as your open G string on the guitar. On sheet music, the notes go A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then restart at A before continuing up A, B, C, D, E, F, G. If you're learning to read this on the guitar, the first thing you want to learn is where your open strings are. Start with D, G, B, and E, since you'll use those notes and the notes in between for the majority of your first pieces of music. But if you're just trying to read this in the first place, what I'm about to show you will make your life way easier. You probably learned Space Face and Every Good Boy Deserves Fudge in your elementary music classes, but did you know that there's one other secret for reading the notes quickly? Okay, so these things down here and up here are called ledger lines. When a note is too high or too low for the staff, which unfortunately a lot of the notes on guitar are, you have to use these ledger lines, and if you don't know what I'm about to share with you, they're an absolute nightmare. But enough clickbaiting with my words, check this out. Eadgbe, while it sounds like a piece of gibberish, when drawn in a circle, it's a circle of thirds. F to G is a second, because F is 1, G is 2. F to A is a third, because F is 1, G is 2, and A is 3. All of the lines on sheet music are a third apart, and all of the spaces on sheet music are a third apart. That means you can use Eadgbe to speed read all the way up the lines and all the way down the lines, including the ledger lines. The goal of reading music at first is not to become so proficient that you read it at the same speed that you read your native language in. Bro, that's like 230 words a minute. You don't put that kind of pressure on yourself when you're learning Spanish or Polish, so why would you do that to yourself with dots and sticks? If you now understand what the note names are, and when given a moment you can figure it out by looking at the page, that's a huge win. Congrats! Now, if I didn't lose 100% of you with that, in my opinion, earth-shattering explanation of how to read sheet music, we're about to talk about something that's been insanely popular with guitar players since before the guitar was even invented. Tablature, or tab, is a notation system for stringed fretted instruments that dates back to the 13th or 14th century, depending on who you ask. The way tab works is each line represents one of the strings on your instrument. Since the guitar has 6 strings, we'll draw 6 lines. The string on the bottom is the lowest note. This can feel upside down to some people because that's the string that's closest to your head, but if you look directly down at your guitar while you're holding it, it makes sense. So the lines are E, A, D, G, B, and E. Historically, French tablature would have the note names written down on each string. If you were playing your 2nd fret on the G string, so there would be an A, and you'd see a little flag above it. When the guitar made its way over to Italy, the Italian tablature system was to write down the numbers of the frets instead of the notes. If you've ever looked up a song on the internet, I'm sure that you're aware that the numbers on the lines, the Italian system of tablature, ended up winning out and became the popular way of writing music for the guitar. And the way that this works is if you see a 0 on a tab line, that means that you pick the string without pressing anything down. And if you see, say, a 3 on the line, then you would hold down the 3rd fret and play that string. If there are multiple 3s, you would hold down the 3rd fret and then you would pick that string multiple times. But you don't have to lift up your finger, you can just keep it held down on the 3rd fret. And if you see more than one note over top of each other, if they're strings that are next to each other like the ones drawn, you can push your pick through the strings and play both at once, or you can use your thumb and one of your fingers to pick the strings. If they're 2 notes that are over top of each other and they're not on strings that are next to each other though, you'll have to finger pick them. This is the most popular style of reading music on the guitar for beginners on the internet because it doesn't require much explanation to get going on the instrument. Historically, during the Renaissance, lutenists were threatened by how fast the Spanish guitar was coming and disrupting the lute's popularity. How could a simple everyday man play this instrument for 10 minutes and be a guitarist? It must be a devil's instrument. What a disgrace to real musicians. This is the kind of garbage they were speaking about the guitar and about tablature. I say rebel against the institutions and use tab, but learn how to read the notes because it'll make you way better at your instrument if you know what to do with it. And speaking of what to do with it, I'm going to put out a video next week on exactly that, so remember to subscribe so that YouTube knows to show you the video. Now, if you were in one of my classes, I'd let you pick which song you get to do as your first song. But since we don't get to do that, I'm going to teach you one of my favorites to get you started with. A rule that I've set across all ages in my studio, whether you're 7 or 77, is your first 5 songs are simple nursery rhymes or folk melodies. And it's not because I think you're a little kid or that you wouldn't get it if I showed you something harder. I just want you to be comfortable with reading the notes with some easy practice songs before we get on to harder things. So today we're going to start off with Happy Birthday. And note that the melody of this song might be totally different depending on where you live. For example, Sto lat in Poland. But for English and French speakers, Buona Fetta and Happy Birthday use the same melody notes. So sing whichever words you prefer in your head as we work through it. Before we start, I'll add the string names to the music and the colors to the notes to make them easier to read. In the very first part of the song, you're going to play open G, 2nd fret on G, and then open G again. So I'm going to get you to practice going open, open, 2nd fret, open. Good job. Depending on where you're at, that might have been easy or a little tricky. In the 3rd measure, this 3rd box right here, the notes are exactly the same. So you've actually already learned 25% of this song. Great job. If we go back to measure 2 to put everything together, there's going to be 2 notes on the B string. You're going to play your 1st fret, and then you're going to play your open B. If we put those together, it'll sound like nice. Over in measure 4, it's going to be 2 more notes that are on the B string. We're going to press down the 3rd fret for the first note, then the 1st fret for the 2nd note. Putting it all together, the first line is going to sound like If you're having trouble getting a sound out of the notes, I want you to try pushing harder with the fingers that you're pushing the notes down with, or pushing closer to the frets. For best results, use finger 1 on the 1s, finger 2 on the 2s, and finger 3 on the 3s. That'll help build up strength in your left-hand fingers, or right-hand fingers if you're left-handed. I'm going to teach measures 5 and 6 together because they're the part of the song where you would sing, "Happy birthday, dear so-and-so," whatever their name might be. For this part, you're going to play happy, which will be 2 open Gs. For birthday, you're going to jump up to the 3rd fret on your high E string, so you'll have to jump with your picking hand. And then you're going to play your open E. Then you're going to play the 1st fret on B with your 1st finger, open B, and then you're going to land on your 2nd finger on the 2nd fret on G. Now, depending on the person's name, you might choose to add more notes in here just so that you can play 1 note for every syllable of their name. That very last part, you're going to use your 1st finger on the 1st fret on the high E for the happy birth, followed by an open E, and then you're going to use your 1st finger on the B string on the 1st fret and your 3rd finger on the B string on the 3rd fret, so that you can go bum, bum, bum. If you can reach, keep your 1st finger held down on that 1st fret note on the B string while you switch to the 3rd fret and then come back to the 1st fret. Amazing! Not only have you just learned your first song, but now you're ready to show your friends your new guitar skills at the next birthday party. But as promised, I also want you to be able to choose which songs you learn first. So, in the description, there's a free download of 10 different songs that you can pick from, and they're all as easy as Happy Birthday. You're welcome to learn all 10 if you want, but my suggestion is to pick 4 more to do, and then move on to playing the songs that you listen to. And when it comes to popular songs, there's no hard and fast rule of what easy guitar music is. What some people find easy, others find difficult, so it's important to play into your strengths. For example, if you've practiced a lot of chords, or like to practice them, and they're starting to sound good, starting with easy chord songs is a natural next choice. If you're better with one note at a time stuff, then learning vocal music like what we just did with the nursery rhymes may be the next best thing for you. Or, if you spent your time on power chords, honestly you could probably throw a dart at any rock song and then get started. Along with the 10 different songs download I mentioned, there's also a list of easy chord songs, easy vocal music, and easy rock riffs if you're stuck on what to play next. Two sites that are good for finding the notes are ultimate-guitar.com and songster.com with 2 R's at the end. Users upload their versions of a song to the website and can vote on which version is the best. Just be warned that while it's very easy to find the songs you're looking for on the site, the music is not always correct. If you get really stuck, sometimes a YouTube video of someone playing it will help in a pinch, or you can ask your guitar teacher like myself and see if they have a copy of it. Personally, what I did when I was younger is I would download guitar profiles from Ultimate Guitar, and then I would edit the tab inside of Guitar Pro to be correct if there were errors in it. Guitar Pro is a paid program, but at the time of the recording it's a one-time payment of $70. With it, you can edit the tabs to be correct, hear them played back and adjust the speed as needed for practicing, and separate audio by track if you're having trouble hearing a specific part. I believe Songster's paid plan does the same thing, but it's a subscription. If you're here to learn classical music, something I've spent a lot of time on for my students is building up a list of graded repertoire. What this means is it's music that's been tested by hundreds of guitar players before you and will be tested by hundreds of guitar players after you to see what the difficulty is approximately of the piece. That way, if you're playing level 1 pieces, you should be able to grab any other level 1 piece and know that it's going to feel roughly the same amount of difficult. If you were to grab grade 2 pieces, it's going to feel 1 grade more difficult. It'll be very gradual. If you're getting started on your journey with classical music or with fingerpicking, using something like this is something I'd strongly recommend. In this next part of your musical journey, it's important to try lots of things. You may try a song, play one riff, and not be able to play the rest. And that's okay. You may try 10 different songs in one day where you don't learn any of the sections perfectly, and that's okay too. Sometimes we find when we start playing an instrument like the guitar, our preference of music to play is different from our preference of music to listen to. For example, I love playing classical music. I went to school for it. It has a special place in my heart. But I almost never go out of my way to listen to classical music. My recommendation for you as a new guitarist is this. If you try one new part of one song every day, you will shock yourself at how good you will become 6 to 12 months from now. And I can say this with confidence because I've seen it happen hundreds of times. Now at some point there may be things that you need, whether it be an accessory, new strings, or even a new guitar. This section of the video is dedicated to know when you need these things and what to look for. So if that sounds interesting to you, when starting out like you are now, the best guitar is the one that you have available to play on. But when you start to get serious, here's what you do. Go to a music store and try out as many different brands as you can, up to about the $1,500 price point. Not because you're gonna buy that expensive of a guitar, but because guitars up to this price point likely have identical necks, which is the first thing that we're looking for. Play the exact same song or the exact same section of a song on every guitar that you pick up and see which one has the best feeling guitar neck. Once you've chosen the brand that has the neck that you prefer, try out as many different guitars by that brand. If it's electrics, you'll be looking for different body shapes and hardware features like the type of bridge or the pickups. If it's acoustics you're looking at, it's the types of wood that it's made of, the thickness and the width of the body, and in some cases even the shape. Then once you've found the right guitar for you, make a note of it and sleep on it. If the guitar you tried was out of your price range, see if you can find it used closer to what you budgeted for. You can sometimes, not always, but sometimes you can find guitars for up to 70% off the new price by buying used. Just make sure that any damage is cosmetic only rather than structural. If you're unsure, having a guitar teacher you can send these questions to is a great resource, or you can send me a message. The next thing you may be in the market for is what I call essential accessories like picks, capos, strings, and a tuner. Please do yourself a favor and get a clip-on tuner. Other tuners work. Free tuners on your phone or your computer work, but it's so much more convenient to have a little clip-on tuner on the head of your guitar for when you need it. My preference is for this one, personally, because I don't really like the look of tuners, and you can barely tell that this one is there. But realistically, any clip-on tuner will do. They just work a lot better than the microphone ones, especially if you're in a noisy environment. If you play with a pick, your choice of pick is 100% preference. Personally, I like these little flimsy ones. They're small. What I've always recommended to students is to try out a bunch of different picks at your local music store, decide on your favorite in that moment, and then buy 12 of them. You're gonna lose them, it's fine. If your preference changes in the future, you can buy different ones in the future. For capos, which I believe are pronounced capo, it also doesn't matter too much. I like these ones because most of it is hidden behind the guitar neck. But the one thing you do need to look at in order to make sure that it works correctly is if you play on metal strings, look for one that has a slight curve to the black pad on it. This will match your fretboard, which will have a curved fretboard radius, it's called. If you play on nylon strings like I usually do, you're gonna want one that has a flat black pad, because nylon string guitars have a flat fingerboard radius. And speaking of strings while we're talking about it, this one is generally preference as well. When choosing which strings to get, make sure you're buying nylon strings for a nylon string guitar and steel strings for a steel string acoustic or an electric. The thicker they are, the more sound and tone they'll produce, but the harder they are to press down. I prefer to strike a balance between thickness and ease of playability, so I usually play right in the middle. Some people like to go as light as possible with their strings, others like to go as heavy as possible and get the most tone. If you're having trouble pressing the strings down, skew towards the lighter sizes. If you're playing in drop tunings often, you'll know if it's you, then you're going to want to skew more towards the heavy side. Now for the nylon string fingerpicking guitarists, my people, this is what I wish I knew when I first started about guitar accessories. Having extra strings around is strongly recommended, but they're a nightmare to change without a string winder. This little tool goes for under $10 on Amazon at the time of recording, and it's made my life so much easier when it comes to switching strings, although sometimes you can find them at your local music store. Footstools, to prop your leg up, are cheap and easy, and in some cases they're even free, if you have something else that you can just prop your leg up on. But being in that position does put pressure on your back, which is why I use an Eadgbe. There are other types of guitar supports that attach to the side of your guitar to prop it up like this, but this is what I learned on and it works, so I don't see a reason to switch to any of the others. If you're interested in trying out other guitar supports though, or want to try an Eadgbe out, the only place I see them consistently in stock is on a website called Strings by Mail. The site looks old because it is, but if you can't find something in your store or in online spaces that you usually look, keep them in mind for guitar gear. I find they come in handy. Music stands. If you practice off of the paper copy, get yourself a normal music stand. You know, the ones that you see in the ensembles. I don't have a preference on which one to use because I don't really use them. Maybe get a sturdy one if you're going to be outdoors, otherwise it doesn't matter. If you play off a computer or a tablet though, this is the type of music stand that I personally use. I don't recommend you get this one in particular. Here's why. With the type of case that I have for my iPad, if I were to be able to clamp it in, then I don't really have anywhere for the stylus. It's just going to fall out of the case. Instead, what I should have got was one that grabs diagonally on it. So for you, if this is the route that you're going, make sure you get something that grips the corners of the tablet diagonally. That way you can still access the stylus if you need it, and it's not going to squish it out of the case. And a really wild hack that I got from my late guitar teacher was to do this. I'm sitting here looking at you. You may think that I should put my music stand directly in front of me, since then I'm looking ahead at it. But instead, it should go over here, off to the side. Now the line of sight for my eyes looking at the music is the same as my eyes looking at the fretboard. So I don't have to change my posture to check if my fingers are in the right spot while I'm reading the music. For the electric guitarist, a quick note about everything else aside from the guitar. The best thing that you can do for yourself as a student of the guitar is to give yourself access to options to make different sounds. Combo amps are great for this because they're portable. Combo amps with multi-effects on board are even better since you'll be able to make a ton of different sounds with the amp, you'll be able to twist the dials, and you can see what your favorite tones and effects are. Once you find the sounds that you absolutely adore and can't get enough of, that's when you start shopping around for the right choice for you and for the particular sounds that you like to make. This includes the amp heads, the foot pedals, all that stuff. Because of how these things are constructed, as long as there isn't a clear electronic issue, used gear can probably save you a ton of money. Make sure to test things out before you buy them though, and maybe take a friend who knows electronics if you're unsure. At this point, you've learned more about the guitar than 90% of students do in their first month of guitar lessons, and you haven't even taken your first lesson with me yet. If there's a spot in my studio, you'll see a link in the description to sign up for a trial lesson where we can see if we're a good fit to work together, or if my studio is full, you'll see a page to sign up for my waitlist. But when it comes to information about what to do on your guitar journey from here, remember that simple is better. And the reason you're picking up the guitar is to play guitar. So don't worry about taking in more information. Rewind this video to the part that's most relevant for you using the timestamps below, and drop a comment when you've played your guitar today so I can cheer you on. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.